here's just a few things that I thought I'd share with you off the record. No structure, no questions, no aforethought. But if you're going to be a successful event manager, one of the things you need to learn is how not to panic. Because when you're running events, at one stage or another, something's going to go wrong. So you need to almost be unfazable. Also, learn to speak other people's language. If you're going to be speaking to security and bar staff, and you're going to be talking to sound engineers, just learn to speak their language. Understand the terminology that they use. It won't be too technical, but I mean, sound engineers, it could be. Sound engineer might say, I'm just going to go and talk to my monitors man in a bigger venue. He may have someone up on stage managing the stage monitors. There could be all sorts of terminology they'll come up with. Backstage. Who should get backstage access and who shouldn't? Be very strict about that. Make sure that it's all wristbanded or security controlled. Backstage, there can be quite a lot of precious stuff. Musical instruments, artists, personal belongings, all that stuff. So make sure it's properly policed. Artists. Funny lot of people, wildly talented, not always personally very good at time management or your diary management. So please make sure that you remind them that they are due to be at a place at a time on a day, so that you make sure that your talent actually turns up and does the show that you want them to do. When they arrive, if they've got a whole entourage of people with them that aren't on the guest list and haven't bought a ticket, now you've got a decision to make. Are you going to let them in? Are you going to charge them? Think about all that in advance. Actually, get it all tied down with the artist in advance. Make sure they know exactly how many people are on their guest list and what their terms are. And then talking of terms, what about riders? Yeah, some artists, they'll tell you that before they go on stage, they like to have sliced strawberries and creme fraiche. Well, you're the promoter. You decide what the rider's going to be. We find that a few beers and some water is perfectly fine backstage until you have a proper named artist in the building. Hanging about after the gig. If you've got to clear a venue, make sure the venue clears. Sometimes it's the artists and their closest friends which are the hardest people to get rid of. So in a nice way, just move them on. Find a nice local pub and tell them where to go so they can have a chat. And talking about chatting, make sure that you control your audience. Artists on stage, doesn't really matter, even if it's a big rock and roll gig, they don't want a whole load of audience members talking. I'm sorry, sir. Is the band disturbing your conversation? Try to avoid, particularly at an acoustic gig, where the audience is talking to the point where it will distract or disturb the artist. When you're the promoter, when you're the event manager, that's for you to organise. There's so much more I could share on the sort of off the record, but just try to be ready for any eventuality and make sure that you surround yourself by capable people. You know, that whole thing about there's no I in team. When you go and deliver an event, it's much more likely to be about your team than you yourself. Make sure that all the people around you are really well briefed. One of the best venues I've ever worked at in London, make sure that the promoter and the venue staff and both of their teams of staff get together and have a final briefing so that everybody knows exactly what's going to happen before the customers are let through the door. So valuable. So there we are. Guys, I wish you well with running your events. You let me know what the tips are for the future. Thanks.